The night wind cut through the narrow alley. Streetlights flickered like distant fireflies. Julia Sanders pressed her back against cold brick. Her breath formed pale wisps in the chill. A single envelope lay at her feet. Its edges were charred and curling. A brass seal bore a looping script. Invitation to forever, it read. Her heart jolted against ribs. Rain began in hesitant drips. Thunder rumbled beyond shattered rooftops. She knelt, trembling, and scooped the note. Each word burned beneath her fingertips. The ink glimmered with ghostly silver. Distant footsteps echoed on wet pavement. Julia's pulse thundered in her ears. She rose, eyes scanning empty shadows. A car door slammed half a block away. She froze, the invitation clutched tight. Rain pattered faster on cracked concrete. Wind whipped her hair across tear-stained cheeks. Julia's teeth chattered in sudden dread. Her instincts screamed to run, to hide. A low hum vibrated through the street. Neon signs buzzed above closed shops. She could taste electricity in the air. The envelope pulsed as if alive. Her fingers shook as she broke the seal. Inside, scalloped vellum bore a message, "Meet me where vows echo at midnight." She swallowed hard. Her mind raced with memories. A promise whispered beneath chapel lights. A ring slipped from her trembling palm. Colors blurred as rain mingled with tears. Footsteps grew louder, closer. She shoved the note into her coat. Heart pounding, she dashed into darkness. A silhouette emerged from dripping fog. He stepped forward under a lone lamp. Julia gasped, nearly stumbling backward. His coat flapped in the storm breeze. His eyes glowed with distant sorrow. He held out a second envelope. Her breath caught in her throat. Lightning cracked overhead like a gunshot. She recognized the trembling in his hand. His jacket was satin-lined, pristine. The street seemed to hold its breath. He spoke in a voice of velvet thunder. "Your answer is here," he whispered. His gaze pierced her soul's secret depths. Julia's knees threatened to buckle. Rain washed the world in silver. The second envelope bore her name. Her chest ached with memory and dread. He extended it without a word. Thunder rattled through the narrow walls. She dared a trembling step forward. Footsteps behind them multiplied near. A ragged figure pressed close behind. Julia turned, eyes wide with alarm. The stranger's mouth curved in malice. He flicked a dark object free. The lamp above them sputtered and died. Julia's heart thundered against her ribs. Light vanished, leaving only shadows. The malicious breath brushed her ear. She yanked her coat tighter around her. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Suddenly, headlights cut through rain. The car's high beams shattered the gloom. The stranger recoiled into shadow's embrace. Julia spun toward the gleaming vehicle. Doors swung open with urgent clatter. A figure leapt out, silhouette bold. Rain traced rivulets down leather jacket. He scooped Julia into arms strong. The car door slammed like a verdict. Tires screamed as they tore away. Rain hammered the windshield in wild rhythm. Julia's breath came in shuddering sobs. She clutched the unopened envelope tight. Her rescuer's eyes met hers in moonlight. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice urgent. Her fingers trembled around paper's edge. She shook her head, eyes fixed downward. A distant siren began to wail. Her chest tightened as she realized the invitation had followed her here. Her rescuer glanced at the ridge of hills. Moonlight revealed an old church spire. He floored the gas pedal with resolve. Julia pressed her forehead against cool glass. Her single tear glowed in the dashboard light. Outside, the rain masked their escape. Inside, her heart pounded with fearful hope. The envelope lay open on her lap. Words on the vellum danced and smudged. Her fate hung between promise and peril. She bit her lip against rising panic. Her rescuer kept silent, eyes on road. He drove toward the midnight rendezvous. Julia's pulse raced with every mile. Thunder trailed them like unseen guards. Her mind spun with what-ifs and warnings. Lightning flashed on distant mountain peaks. The church bells would toll in minutes. She inhaled deeply, bracing for truth. A scream threatened to tear from her throat. The car braked hard on gravel shoulders. They stood beneath the chapel's looming arch. Rain soaked her dress and mudded shoes. Her rescuer offered a steadying hand. Julia's fingers brushed across the envelope. Moonlight shimmered on its curled edge. She met his gaze through her tears. His lips parted as bells began to peal. She swallowed past a quivering throat. Her answer waited within trembling folds. A final flash of lightning illuminated them both. Julia swallowed hard and reached inside. A single tear fell onto the vellum. She closed her eyes against the storm. Her breath caught as she whispered aloud, "Yes!" A roar of thunder followed her word. She exhaled with a trembling hope. Her rescuer drew her close in the dark. Together, they stepped into the chapel. Footsteps echoed on aged wooden floors. Candle flames danced along stone pillars. Julia's heart fluttered with terrified anticipation. She felt the invitation pulse beneath her palm. Something shifted in shadowed recesses nearby. Her breath stuttered in her lungs. The chamber grew silent as midnight struck. A figure emerged from the darkness beyond. Julia froze, tear-stained and trembling. The invitation slipped from her grasp and landed at the stranger's feet. Emma Collins woke before sunrise each morning. Her bedroom overlooked a quiet cul-de-sac in Austin. The sky glowed soft lavender before dawn. She padded across hardwood floors in slippers. Her alarm chimed to a familiar folk tune. She reached for her phone on the nightstand. Unread messages blinked from family group chat. She tapped a reply and slipped out the door. The air smelled of dew-wet grass and magnolia. Emma's car key jingled like distant wind chimes. Her Toyota Prius sat in the drive. She smiled at its dent on the passenger door. Metallic green paint reflected the morning light. She kissed her reflection in the windshield. "Ready for another day," she whispered softly. Inside, the seats bore faded fabric patterns. Emma climbed in and turned the ignition. The engine hummed as she merged onto the street. Rows of suburban homes flashed by in pastel. Neighbors watered gardens and fed tabby cats. Emma worked as a paralegal downtown. Her office sat in a converted warehouse. Exposed brick walls bore tall steel beams. She loved the mix of old and new. Her desk held color-coded folders and photos. A framed picture of her brother sat proudly. Chris had enlisted 2 years earlier. She missed his late-night calls so much. Her mother's voice still cracked with worry. Emma pinned a good luck ribbon to her cubicle. Coffee steamed in a slender porcelain mug. She dabbed lipstick from the corner of her mouth. Her boss, Mr. Patel, greeted her with a nod. "Morning, Emma. Court date moved to Tuesday." She jotted it into her planner quickly. Cases piled higher than the window sills. She thrived on deadlines and careful research. Her colleagues relied on her steady focus. Yet at night, her dreams were restless. She woke gasping from nightmares of burning doors. At lunch, she met her friend Marcus at Elm Cafe. He wore suspenders and a bow tie. They ordered turkey sandwiches and iced tea. Sun shone through stained glass windows. Marcus teased her about her serious demeanor. She laughed, the sound bright as chimes. He updated her on local art shows. Emma's chest tightened at a silent unease. She glanced at the cafe's front door. Her eyes lingered on every new face. Back home that evening, she found her mother waiting. Mrs. Collins poured lemonade on the porch. Her gentle smile couldn't hide tired eyes. "Dinner's at 6, her mother said softly. Emma nodded and unlocked the front door. Family photos lined the hallway walls. Her brother's graduation picture caught the light. She paused, fingers hovering over the frame. Memories of his laughter echoed behind her. She hurried past to the kitchen light. Dinner smelled of roasted chicken and herbs. Her father carved meat with precise movements. His jaw clenched as he watched the news. A report on a local fire blinked on TV. Emma tensed at the screen's smoky images. Her mother dropped her fork, eyes moist. "Not again," she murmured under her breath. Emma swallowed hard, setting down her plate. Her appetite vanished like mist in dawn. She excused herself and slipped upstairs. In her room, she opened her journal. Letters she had never sent lay inside. Each spoke of longing and half-spoken fears. She wrote of a promise whispered years ago, a vow beneath a willow tree's shade. Her pen hesitated, tracing those inked words. She closed the journal with a soft click. Rain began pattering against her window pane. She pulled the curtains against the storm. Lightning traced silver veins across the sky. Restless, Emma dressed in running shoes. She jogged toward Lady Bird Lake's shoreline. The path glowed under stringed walkway lights. Water rippled with distant boat engines. She inhaled damp air and slowed her pace. Her thoughts drifted to the charred invitation. She shook her head, trying to discard its pull. But every shadow seemed to whisper her name. Her heels slowed against the pebbled trail. She pressed a hand to her racing heart. Her phone vibrated with a text from Chris. "Miss you. Keep safe. Call me later." She texted back a smiling emoji, then slipped the phone into her pocket. Ahead, the silhouette of the Congress Avenue Bridge appeared. Bats streamed from beneath its arches at dusk. Emma paused to watch their fluttering dance. Their black wings cut through orange sky. A chill rippled down her spine again. She turned back toward home in silence. Later, she found a letter on her doorstep. No stamp marked its arrival time. The paper felt warm, almost pulsing. Her breath stuttered in her chest. She lifted it to faint lamplight. Her name was scrawled in elegant script. A single drop of wax sealed the flap. She hesitated, fingernails grazing its edge. Her mind raced with questions unspoken. She pressed her palm over her racing pulse. Inside, the message read simply, "Remember our promise beneath the willow." Emma's vision blurred with remembered sighs. She gripped the railing of her porch. Her safe suburban world felt suddenly fragile. Thunder rumbled in the distance again. She cradled the note against her heart. A soft knock sounded on her front door. Emma's breath froze in her throat. She turned toward the dark threshold. Her pulse thundered as she whispered, "What do you want from me?" A courier arrived at Emma's door before dawn. The package was small and wrapped in black wax. She carried it to the kitchen island. Her hands shook as she sliced the seal. Inside, a single Polaroid lay atop vellum paper. The photo showed her beneath the willow tree. Her eyes were closed, hand outstretched. The background was blurred, impossibly dark. Emma gasped, heart slamming against her sternum. She lifted the vellum and read its message. "Tonight, at the willow, our promise awakens." Her breath caught in a sudden storm of panic. She dropped the Polaroid, but it floated midair. Time seemed to slow around her trembling form. Rain tapped a nervous rhythm on the window. Emma backed away from the island quietly. The kitchen clock ticked with ominous clarity. She stared at the photo, mind racing in circles. Memories of whispered vows beneath willow shade surfaced. She closed her eyes against the flood of recollection. A low thud sounded at the front door. Emma froze, pulse echoing in her ears. She crept toward the peephole with cautious steps. Outside stood a tall figure in a dark coat. He held another envelope with her name scrawled. Moonlight glinted on the brass seal again. Emma's stomach twisted into tight, anxious knots. She whispered his name as if in prayer. "Oliver," she murmured, voice barely audible. He knocked twice, slow and deliberate. Her hand hovered above the door latch. She spun away, instincts urging retreat. Behind her, the Polaroid fluttered to the floor. She heard footsteps descending the front stairs. Emma darted to her study and bolted the door. The walls felt too close in the cramped room. Her phone lay charging on the desk. She fumbled to unlock it with shaking fingers. A single missed call blinked from Chris. She ignored it, typing a new message instead. "Can't talk. Call later," she quickly tapped, then deleted the draft, unable to send. A soft click echoed through the hallway. Emma's breath hitched as her study door shook. She grabbed a legal file like a shield. The doorknob rattled under invisible pressure. Rain drummed louder against the roof. Her heart raced in frantic gallops. Suddenly, a slender envelope slid under the door. Emma knelt and retrieved it carefully. The seal bore an emblem she did not recognize. She broke it open with trembling resolve. Inside lay a folded note and a key. The note read, "The truth sleeps by dawn's light." The key was small, antique, ornate brass. Her mind reeled with questions unanswered. Who sent these riddles cloaked in midnight? She pressed her back against the study wall. The doorknob stopped shaking as silence fell. Emma clutched the key, blinking back tears. She slid to the carpet in a hollow heap. Memories surfaced of an old family estate. Her grandmother once spoke of hidden rooms. A locked door she never found on tour. Could this key belong to that secret? She rose with sudden determination stirring within. Emma retrieved her coat from the closet. Pockets swallowed the key and folded note. She stepped outside into the misted morning. Dawn's first light touched dew-laced grass. The willow tree stood sentry by the lake. Its long branches brushed the mirrored surface. Emma's breath fogged in the crisp air. Her pulse drummed louder than distant church bells. She approached the tree with cautious steps. Wooden planks formed an old boathouse platform. The key felt heavy against her palm. She searched the tree's wide trunk for locks. Her fingertips traced moss-covered grooves. A hidden latch clicked beneath her touch. A narrow hatch swung open with creak. Emma's eyes widened at the concealed cave. Darkness yawned within, beckoning and forbidding. Thunder rumbled behind gathering storm clouds. She hesitated, heart pounding like war drums. Lightning flashed, illuminating dusty oak beams. She stepped into the hidden chamber's mouth. A single candle flickered on a stone pedestal. Next to it lay a tarnished locket and ledger. Her grandmother's initials were etched on the locket. Emma lifted the leather-bound ledger gently. Pages fell open to a faded family tree. Strange names and dates surrounded her lineage. One entry gleamed with silver ink. Eternal vow! Her breath hitched at the weight of revelation. Footsteps echoed across the platform behind. Emma whirled as rain began to spatter. A silhouette emerged under the willow's arc. He held the charred invitation and silver seal. His eyes glowed with sorrow and urgency. "Do you remember our promise, Emma?" he asked. Her chest tightened, memories crashing like waves. She clutched the key, ledger trembling in hand. He stepped closer, shadows dancing across his face. "The secret sleeps, but danger wakes anew." Emma swallowed against the lump in her throat. Thunder rolled as petals drifted from the tree. She opened her mouth to answer, but silence fell. Her heart pounded unanswered questions into the dark. Emma ascended ancient stone steps behind the willow. Her lantern cast wavering light on damp walls. Muffled voices drifted from deeper in the chamber. She pressed her back to cold, mossy rock. Heart pounding, she edged toward the ledger's glow. The stranger's footsteps echoed on wooden planks. Rain hammered the boathouse roof like a drum. Emma flipped the ledger's page marked Eternal Vow. Ink traced a map to a hidden family crypt. She scanned names tied by silver lines. A chilling draft slipped through the hatch above. A shadow flickered at the chamber's mouth. She ducked behind the pedestal, breath held tight. Footsteps stopped, silence pressed against her ears. A low growl rumbled from the darkness beyond. Emma's fingers closed around the brass key. She slid along the wall, seeking an exit. Torchlight revealed carved symbols on stone blocks. They pulsed faintly under her touch. Her mind raced with ancestral legends she'd dismissed. A distant alarm bell tolled from the manor above. Footsteps pounded down the boathouse stairs. She pressed closer to the damp floor's edge. A voice hissed, "She carries the truth within." The stranger's silhouette filled the hatchway. Emma sprang forward, clutching the ledger. She lunged through dripping corridors of roots. Her lantern's beam danced over slick wood. A hidden door bar slid aside with effort. She tumbled into a narrow tunnel beyond. Roots dangled overhead like skeletal fingers. Her lungs burned with each hurried breath. Someone pursued her through muddy passageways. She paused at a fork marked by a skull carving. Left path glowed with distant torchlight. Right path echoed with wet, dragging sounds. Emma chose left, stomach twisting in dread. Footsteps snarled behind her like hungry beasts. She stumbled into a collapsed stairwell. Old timber groaned under her weight. A torch flame flickered at the top. The stranger's face appeared above her. Rainwater streamed down his haunted expression. He reached for the ledger she clutched. Emma scrambled upward on treacherous steps. Roots tore at her jacket and hair. A thunderclap shook the tunnel walls. Stalactites dripped in ghostly cadence. She burst into a moonlit clearing under the willow. Silver petals drifted through the chilled air. Her rescuer, Oliver, stood at the clearing's edge. He held a lantern in one steady hand. Her chest heaved as she collapsed at his feet. He helped her upright with firm gentleness. "Follow me," he urged, voice taut with worry. They dashed across slick grass toward a distant gate. Behind them, footsteps multiplied in the gloom. Emma glanced back to see 3 hooded figures. Their silhouettes moved with silent menace. She tightened her grip on the ledger. Oliver drew a folding knife from his boot. He sliced through a barbed wire fence quickly. Emma wove under the tangled wire, trembling. They scrambled onto a gravel road lit by torches. An abandoned hearse loomed in the distance. Its windows were shattered, metal rusted red. Oliver yanked open the driver's door. Emma slid in, heart pounding against the glass. He slammed the door and hot-wired the ignition. The engine roared like a wounded animal. Headlights cut a path through sodden trees. They barreled toward the old Collins estate. Emma opened the ledger to the next page. It named a secret chamber beneath the ballroom. Her pulse stuttered at the thought of ghosts. Oliver glanced at her through the rearview mirror. "Trust me," he said, voice laced with urgency. Lightning split the sky as they neared the gates. Tall iron spikes crowned the ancient stone walls. The hearse skidded to a halt before a rusted arch. Emma hopped out, ledger in hand. Oliver followed, closing the doors behind him. They slipped under the wrought iron gates together. A lone lantern glowed by the grand entrance. The mansion's windows were dark and silent. An owl hooted from a turret above. Emma pressed her palm to the cold door. It swung open with a mournful creak. Inside, marble floors gleamed under torchlight. Portraits of stern ancestors lined the walls. Their eyes seemed to follow every step. Emma's lantern revealed a grand staircase ahead. She climbed, each step echoing through the void. Oliver paused, listening at a carved doorway. Muffled chanting drifted from inside the room. He nodded toward the closed double doors. Emma swallowed her fear and turned the knob. They entered the secret ballroom chamber. Dust motes danced in the lantern's glow. A circular dais lay at the center of the floor. Silver veins ran through the marble beneath their feet. Atop it rested a carved oak chest. Its lid bore the same looping script as the invitation. Oliver knelt and placed the brass key into the lock. Emma held her breath as it clicked open. Inside lay ash-black velvet cloth and a dagger. The dagger's hilt was encrusted with ruby tears. A parchment note lay beneath the weapon. Her name was scrawled in hurried, jagged ink. She unfolded it with trembling fingers. "Use this to bind your promise or end your fear." Emma's vision blurred as rain began to thunder in. The hooded figures burst through the doors behind them. Oliver stepped in front of Emma, blade drawn. She gripped the ruby hilt dagger with cold resolve. Their pursuers advanced in silent, terrible grace. Emma raised the dagger in trembling challenge. Torchlight danced off the blood-red stones. Her heart roared. Promise or peril, she would decide. At dawn, Emma met Oliver at a secluded garage gym by the lake. Faded posters of martial arts lined the peeling walls. He handed her a pair of worn leather gloves. Her fingers trembled as she laced them tight. Oliver nodded and tapped the heavy punching bag. "Focus on breathing," he instructed, voice low and steady. Emma inhaled deep, feeling cold air fill her lungs. She jabbed the bag with trembling precision. Pain shot through her knuckles on impact. She winced but pushed forward with renewed resolve. Oliver demonstrated a sweeping kick with practiced grace. Emma mirrored his stance, legs wobbling under strain. Her muscles burned as sweat dripped from her brow. "Again," he said, eyes calm but insistent. She struck the bag until her arms shook violently. "Better," he acknowledged, passing her a water bottle. She gulped it down, tasting metal and effort. Oliver led her to a low wooden bench. He produced a small metal cylinder. Inside, 3 bullets gleamed under harsh fluorescent light. They climbed into his old Dodge and drove west. At the private shooting range, clay targets waited. Emma's heart pounded in her ears. He handed her a 9 pistol with leather grips. "Safety first," he reminded, pointing at the manual. She read the instructions with attentive care. Oliver guided her hands around the weapon's frame. "Steady," he murmured as she took aim. The first shot cracked through morning stillness. Emma's ears rang with sudden adrenaline. She blinked, surprised by the recoil. Her shoulders tensed, then relaxed as she fired again. Bullets shredded a paper target into fluttering scraps. Her pulse slowed as focus sharpened her mind. "Good," Oliver said, a rare smile tugging his lips. They walked back through dusty gravel toward the car. Emma's kneecaps ached from repeated lunges he'd assigned. She massaged bruised ribs from sparring practice. Oliver shared stories of his military past carefully. He spoke of a brother lost in distant desert sands. Her chest tightened at his quiet grief. She realized they both carried hidden scars. Under a willow's shade near the range's edge, he placed his hand lightly on her shoulder. "We fight our battles inside before we fight outside." Emma nodded, tears glinting in sunrise light. She blinked them away and squared her shoulders. The next day, they entered a local karate dojo. Wooden floors gleamed with sweat and disciplined focus. Emma wore a borrowed gi over her jeans. She bowed to the black belt instructor respectfully. They practiced blocks and counters in rhythmic sequences. Her limbs felt stiff, but grew more fluid each moment. Oliver coached her through stances with patient precision. Emma stumbled, then regained her footing with determination. The instructor watched, nodding at her rapid progress. After class, they sat on worn tatami mats. He revealed he once trained with a legendary sensei. That sensei saved his unit from an ambush abroad. Emma touched the tatami surface thoughtfully. "I carry those lessons with me every day," he whispered. She absorbed his words like parched earth drinks rain. Her confidence grew in measured increments. Over the next week, Emma ran drills at dawn. She sprinted uphill until her legs burned fiercely. She practiced breath control beneath howling wind gusts. Her body shaped itself into lean, disciplined strength. Oliver timed her with a cracked stopwatch. 15 seconds faster, he praised after her final sprint. She smiled, fatigue and pride entwining in her chest. They returned to the boathouse chamber at dusk. Emma unlocked the dusty hatch with practiced calm. She carried the ruby hilt dagger without hesitation. Her lantern burned steady light against dripping stone. They explored hidden crevices for trapdoors and alarms. Emma ducked under low beams without a second thought. Her reflexes had sharpened under Oliver's careful tutelage. He watched her with quiet approval in his eyes. She realized her fear had become focused resolve. Her mind no longer raced with paralyzing doubt. Instead, it mapped strategies and contingencies swiftly. She turned to him, lantern light dancing in her gaze. "I'm ready," she whispered with hard-won confidence. Oliver nodded, his face softening in relief. "Your promise binds you stronger than any blade," he said. Emma folded her mouth into a determined line. Rain pattered overhead as they climbed toward daylight. Her boots felt lighter on slick wooden planks. She exhaled, feeling capable, yet still alert to danger. The storm outside mirrored her turbulent courage within. Emma stood beneath the willow, dagger sheathed at her waist. She tasted iron and rain on her tongue. Her heart thudded in deliberate, controlled beats. She and Oliver exchanged a solemn glance. She drew a deep breath and met the coming threat. Her training had forged her body into a weapon. Her spirit burned with sharpened purpose and hope. Yet the shadows beyond the tree still held peril. She raised her chin and flexed her fingers. She promised herself she would not falter now. The wind whispered her name through dripping branches. She whispered back, "I remember what we vowed." Lightning flickered across the storm-tossed sky above. Emma's eyes gleamed with determined fire. She stepped forward toward destiny's waiting edge. A familiar voice echoed from the boathouse door. Emma spun, dagger at the ready. Oliver froze beside her, eyes wide. The stranger stepped into lantern light. His hood fell back to reveal Marcus. Her friend's grin was thin and cold. Emma's heart clenched with disbelief. "Why are you here?" she demanded. Marcus's suspenders gleamed in the gloom. He brushed rain from his auburn hair. "Because promises can be costly," he said softly. Oliver moved between them protectively. Marcus's eyes flicked to the ruby hilt dagger. "Impressive," he murmured with sad amusement. Emma recognized guilt shadowing his face. "Help me," she pleaded, voice cracking. He shook his head almost imperceptibly. "I never wanted this for you." Her hands trembled on the dagger's grip. She remembered late nights at the cafe. Marcus once vowed to guard her secrets. Now his betrayal cut deeper than any blade. He stepped closer with measured caution. Oliver tightened his jaw ready to strike. Emma held up a hand between them. "Tell me why," she whispered urgently. Marcus closed his eyes in resignation. "There's a debt I owe your family." Her pulse thundered with shocked pain. He produced a small velvet pouch. Inside lay her grandmother's necklace. "I took this long ago for rent." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She staggered backward toward the willow. Lightning carved veins across stormy sky. Marcus's voice trembled with remorse. But they demanded more than silver. He dropped the pouch at Emma's feet. The necklace scattered across wet grass. Oliver sheathed his blade with a click. Emma knelt, gathering each pearl tear. "Why keep sending invitations?" she asked. Marcus swallowed, gaze fixed on the water. "They threatened my mother's safety." Tears blurred Marcus's honest brown eyes. Emma's chest tightened with conflicted mercy. A new sound snapped her attention suddenly. Footsteps marched across the gravel path. 3 figures emerged, cloaked and hooded. Their leader raised a jagged dagger. Emma rose, dagger drawn in challenge. Oliver stepped forward with steady calm. Marcus bowed his head in acceptance. "They're here for all of us," he warned. Rain slashed across the clearing now. Emma squared her shoulders, resolve hardening. Betrayed yet unbroken, she faced the threat. Her allies shifted, united in fragile trust. The storm raged, matching her racing heart. No promise could survive unless they stood together. She inhaled, dagger gleaming red in lightning. And she whispered, "Then we fight as one." Emma pressed herself against the willow's dripping bark. Her lungs burned with each shallow breath. Oliver crouched beside her, knife gleaming. Marcus steadied the grandmother's necklace in hand. The hooded figures advanced in silent menace. Their leader's dagger reflected lightning's pale flash. Emma's pulse thundered louder than storm drums. She swallowed hard and raised her ruby hilt dagger. Rain sluiced down her face in cold rivulets. "Stay close," Oliver hissed under his breath. The figures fanned out, encircling the clearing. Emma spotted the jittery flicker of torchlight. Marcus slipped between 2 attackers unseen. He grabbed one by the wrist and twisted. A sharp snap echoed as the arm cracked. The attacker hissed and dropped to one knee. Oliver lunged at another with blade aloft. Steel rang on steel in a furious clang. Emma darted forward, dagger slicing low. She slashed the leader's coat, leaving a tear. Lightning split the sky in brilliant white. She and Oliver backed toward the water's edge. Marcus kicked away a fallen attacker's torch. Flames guttered and died in the sodden grass. The leader roared, advancing with furious pace. Emma met his charge with raised dagger. They collided in a tangle of limbs and rain. Her knuckles stung as she struck his side. He staggered back, hissing through broken lips. Oliver tackled him from behind, knife at throat. The leader spat blood into the muddy earth. "Where is it?" the leader snarled at Emma. She realized the ledger lay hidden in her coat. She drew it free, pages splayed in the wind. Names and symbols glowed faintly under torchlight. Her breath caught as the leader's eyes widened. Marcus darted forward and retrieved the locket. He pressed it into Emma's trembling palm. The necklace's pearls pulsed with soft silver light. Emma glanced at the sky's roiling clouds. She raised the locket toward the rune-carved chest. Lightning struck the oak tree with thunderous crack. A shock of energy raced along silver veins. The hideous chanting from the manor's distant halls coalesced into frantic shouts behind them. Emma turned and sprinted toward the boathouse hatch. Oliver and Marcus followed in urgent stride. The leader roared, abandoning his men to pursue. Emma slammed the hatch shut with shaking hands. Roots shifted as she twisted the hidden latch. They tumbled into the dank tunnel once more. Water dripped in steady cadence around them. The leader's shouts echoed through the labyrinth. Emma's lantern flickered under her grasp. Her legs trembled as she navigated collapsed stairs. Oliver supported her arm through narrow turns. Marcus clutched the locket against his chest. They burst into the grand ballroom's shattered doorway. Floorboards cracked under the weight of pursuit. Hooded figures spilled through corridors behind. Emma pointed to a fallen chandelier above. "Wait for it," she whispered with grim determination. Oliver tightened his grip on her wrist. She dashed across marble toward the dais chest. Attacker hands reached out from the shadows. Marcus scrambled to insert the locket into dagger hilt. The ruby tears gleamed as they clicked into place. Emma thrust the dagger down into the oak chest. Light exploded in a blinding silver blast. Hooded figures shrieked as shadows recoiled. The manor's walls trembled under arcane force. The chandelier dropped with a thunderous crash. Chipped crystals scattered across fractured marble. Flames roared along broken torch sconces. Emma seized Oliver's hand and yanked him back. They dove behind a pillar as wood splintered. Dust choked the air in swirling vortex. Marcus staggered into their hiding spot. He coughed, pressing the locket to his lips. The leader's anguished scream reverberated through halls. Silence fell over the chaos like snowfall. Emma peered out at the ruined dais chest. Silver runes glowed, then faded into embers. Her chest heaved with exhausted relief. Oliver crouched beside her, face streaked with rain. Marcus dropped to one knee in trembling triumph. "Promise bound," he whispered hoarsely. Emma exhaled, blade dripping with stormwater. She met Oliver's eyes and nodded slowly. They turned toward the shattered ballroom exit. Outside, the storm had spent its fury. Moonlight glistened on rain-washed grounds. The broken hearse sat silent by the gate. Emma led the way, dagger still clenched. Her heart pounded with raging exhilaration. Behind them, the crypt's echoes fell silent. She stepped onto gravel, rain-soaked but unbroken. Oliver and Marcus fell in behind her. Together, they vanished into the hushed night. Dawn's first light filtered through misty pines. Emma emerged onto the gravel road alone. Her coat was torn, dagger still at her side. She paused to breathe in crisp morning air. Branches dripped gentle tears of dew. Oliver stepped from the tree line quietly. He offered her a soft, steady smile. Emma's shoulders relaxed for the first time. The rising sun painted the sky in rose. Marcus approached, holding the grandmother's locket. He placed it gently in Emma's palm. She felt its warmth pulse comforting strength. His eyes held quiet apology and respect. Together they walked toward the old gate. Birdsong wove through the fresh dawn chorus. Emma's heart fluttered with cautious hope. Each step felt lighter than the last. At the gate, Oliver turned to Emma. "I'll stay till you're safe," he promised. She nodded, gratitude shining in her eyes. Her chest swelled with a new, steady calm. Marcus lingered just behind, silent and somber. Emma found she could forgive his betrayal. He had acted out of love and desperate fear. Now they all stood united by shared promise. Beyond the gates lay Emma's home at last. White paint glowed against emerald hedges. She paused at the worn welcome mat. The world felt different, safer, brighter. Inside, her mother waited in the hallway. Tears of relief shimmered on her cheeks. Emma dropped the locket into her mother's hand. "My grandmother's promise is ours to keep." Her mother embraced her with trembling arms. Emma felt every tense worry dissolve away. Behind them, her father switched off the news. Smoke warnings no longer held them in fear. Later in the kitchen, Emma set tea for 3. Sunlight streamed through lace curtains. Oliver and Marcus accepted mugs with quiet smiles. Their presence felt like long-awaited healing. Emma poured honey into her cup gently. She glanced at the ruby hilt dagger on the table. Its blade was dull now, its purpose fulfilled. She wrapped it in linen and placed it in a box. Her mother cleared space on a high shelf. "This stays locked," she said softly. Emma agreed without hesitation at all. Some secrets shine brightest when safely kept. That evening, she and Oliver walked Lakeside Trail. Twilight painted water in violet hush. He slipped his hand into hers warmly. Emma felt peace bloom in her chest. They paused beneath the willow as petals fell. No invitation lay waiting this time. Oliver brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Your RSVP changed everything," he whispered. Emma smiled, her tear of joy glinting. No more torn edges, no more fear. She leaned into him as dusk deepened. Their shadows merged beneath swaying limbs. Across the lake, lights hummed in cozy homes. Life pulsed forward in steady rhythm. Emma inhaled the scent of flowering honeysuckle, her promise born anew in gentle night air. At home, Marcus closed the gate behind them. He paused, hand on cool iron bars. Emma looked up at him over her shoulder. He offered a small, hopeful nod. She mouthed, "Thank you," in quiet gratitude. He replied with a faint, relieved grin. Then he turned to walk down the road alone. His silhouette faded into amber streetlights. Inside her house, Emma placed photos on shelves. Family memories framed in warm oak. The locket sat beside her grandmother's portrait. Her promise and her past now safely entwined. That night, she penned a new journal entry. "Tonight, I choose hope over fear." Her pen paused as she traced the words. She closed the book with a contented sigh. In the bedroom's soft lamp glow, she paused. Oliver's jacket hung by the door. She smiled to herself, heart steady and warm. Tomorrow held no shadows she could not face. Under the willow's distant watch, waves lapped. Stars winked in velvet sky above Lake Austin. Emma's life stretched ahead in gentle promise. She had sent her RSVP and found forever.